Bloomberg News.
Jim Rogers correctly predicted the kickoff of the commodity rally a decade ago. He says it's now the best bet in town, and meantime says don't rely on China, despite all its heft to dig the world out of its funk. I have known him for a long, long time. We've done business for a long time. And Jim, it is just after 6 a.m. in the Asia Pac in our time zone. Hats off to you, sport, for being here today. You being here so early tells me you think the world is going to pick up. This could be a real litmus test this week. No?
No, I'm just a fan of Bloomberg, that's all.
Jim, what's going on in the world? Oil's up. Gold is down a little bit. Who knows where the world is going? They're still talking about bailouts. I was watching the Sunday morning programs, listening to Schumer talking about there ain't the stomach out there for TARP 3.
Bernie, the world's in serious trouble, and American politicians and European politicians are making it much worse. This has got a long way to go. I don't particularly like saying it, but you're going to see the worst we've had since the 1930s.
You mean nothing they're doing is working? Absolutely nothing? Nada? Zilch?
In Washington? Well, listen, Bernie, if you get some of the money they're passing out, it's going to work for you, yes. But remember, if you're American, you don't have reserves. You either have to have to tax it or print it or borrow it, none of which is good for anybody. If you take money from here and put it here, these guys think you're great. But that does not solve the problem because everybody else is being messed up. No, I cannot see anything they're doing in the U.S. which is correct.
Okay, we're going to pick up on that. But Jim has been a consummate bull on China. I believe his daughter, how old is your daughter now, Jim? 9 years old, 10 years old? She was taking Mandarin lessons many years ago.
No, she'll be 6 in May, but she is perfectly fluent in Mandarin. There's no question about that.
Yeah, puts me to shame, too, and I'm supposed to be Chinese. So you just heard Steve Engel up in Beijing giving a quick report on what's going to happen this week at the NPC, small steps toward convertibility of the yuan. Looks like in some ways they're thinking out of the box, doing things other than the obvious, which is throwing lots and lots of money at the problems around you. When the National Congress kicked off last week, one of the things you said is don't expect the PRC to bail the world out. They might be big and they might have a lot of money, but there's only so much they can do. With the benefit of a few days and some policies handed down, kicked around, have you changed your tune at all? Do you think that China maybe is looking like more of a white knight now than not?
Well, Bernie, the Chinese economy is about 20% of the size of the U.S. economy. So, I mean, it's impossible for it to pull us out. Europe and America alone are 5, 6, 7 times as big as or 10 times as big as the Chinese economy. Europe and America are bigger than the whole Asian economy put together. So, no, there's no way they can pull us out. They can help, and they can certainly help themselves, and they are. And what they're doing may turn out to be good things for China. But it's not big enough to pull out the whole world, especially the U.S.
Hey, Jim, Steve Engel up here in Beijing. Let me jump in here. Where do you see these stimulus packages, or at least a major stimulus package by the Chinese, filtering into the economy and perhaps loosening up some of those savings that are stuffed under the mattress in China? Do you see China perhaps coming out of this global recession sooner than the U.S. and others?
I certainly expect China to come out of it sooner than the U.S. After all, China has gigantic savings. China has gigantic reserves. They have the largest number of reserves in the world. They had all this money saved up for a rainy day. Well, now it's raining, Steve, and so they're starting to spend some of it. And from what I can gather, they seem to be spending the money on the right things. Infrastructure or projects that will help them be more competitive and more efficient if and when we come out of this. So China is doing a much better job than others. They should make their currency convertible, back to your original point. I'm glad to see that they're taking yet another step towards convertibility. That's one of the few mistakes the Chinese have made over the past 3 or 4 decades.
Okay.
Not being convertible, I mean.
Jim, BRIC countries are falling apart. I mean, you get the mess over in the OECD countries, and for all the talk in the past about decoupling, we're not seeing it. It looks like we're going down the tube together. Any reason to think otherwise?
Well, Bernie, of course we're going down the tubes together. To repeat, America and Europe are the largest economies in the world, and they overshadow everything. When they're in trouble, everybody's in trouble. Some areas of the world economy are going to do fine. If you're in agriculture, you're in great shape. In fact, Bernie, farming is going to be one of the great industries of the next 20 years or so. If you're in water treatment in Asia, you're doing fine. But for the most part, we're all affected by the United States and Europe, whether we like it or not, and they are in very serious trouble. Bernie, let me make this clear. The world is in very serious trouble. There are going to be lots of bankruptcies. There are going to be many problems down the road. You're going to see civil unrest in many more countries. This is a serious situation.
You sound like you almost sound like a bear hedge fund manager. I get the sense that you're probably shorting far more out there than you're actually going long on.
No, that's incorrect. I'm actually long. I'm long agriculture, for instance. As I say, I'm wildly bullish on agriculture. I'm bullish on commodities. The prices are down, of course, but the only area of the world economy I know which is benefiting by all of this, Bernie, are commodities. Many farmers cannot get loans for fertilizer now, and we already have the lowest inventories of food we've had in 50 years. Nobody's going to open a mine, Bernie, for 15 or 20 years. You cannot get a loan to open a mine anymore. The reserves of oil are rapidly declining throughout the world. So the supply of everything, commodities, is in decline. It appeared when they were already under duress. So commodities, the fundamentals are improving. I'm extremely optimistic. I'm not terribly optimistic about a lot of other things. Finance is going to be a disaster. Bernie, we're in a major shift. For 30 years, Wall Street, the City of London, that's where the money and the glory was. That's finished. That's over. That's done. We're having a shift to where it's the people who produce real goods, whether it's cotton or zinc or whatever. Those are the people who are going to be in charge. The farmers are going to have the Lamborghinis in the future, not the brokers on Wall Street.
A lot of Lamborghinis going for half price. I was just dreaming at the car lot a few weeks ago. Jim, hang on. Next on Morning Calls. Jim, you mentioned that you were long commodities still, and you've seen the aberration, and you were saying that agriculture is still one of your favorite sweet spots. You know, the price of rice isn't what it used to be. Price of corn, soy, alfalfa, it doesn't matter what it is really a whisker of where it used to be. I wonder if you're still reminiscing about the past in some ways.
That's one reason I'm bullish, Bernie. Cotton is 70% below its all-time high. Sugar is over 80% below its all-time high. I don't know many things that are 80% below where they were 35 years ago, Bernie. That's why there's plenty of opportunities here. Nobody's been putting money into productive capacity in agriculture for a long time. We even have a shortage of farmers now, Bernie. Most of the farmers in the world are old men. It's been a horrible business for 30 years. That's why it's one of the reasons it's going to be such a phenomenal place for the next 20 years or so.
Okay, we're going to talk this through
Bernie,
here. And you've got a point. You've got a great point. Yep. Go ahead.
Bernie, all your viewers who've got MBAs made a terrible mistake. They should try to go down and exchange them for farming degrees or mining degrees.
I'm glad I got an MS instead of an MBA. I saw the day that somebody like you would be sitting opposite on the TV. Now, we were talking like a couple of farmers from Idaho or Montana a little bit earlier. The consumer is actually going back to real basic stuff. Walmart takes up a dime of every retail dollar except for the gas pumps. In America, people are discovering true value for money. Jim, what kind of a future is that going to lead us toward?
Well, Bernie, we're going to have more layoffs. I'm sorry to say that this is going to not be resolved for another year or two, or maybe even longer than that. Bernie, we've had long periods in world history when the economics of the world have been bad. I'm afraid we're in one of those periods again. And in Washington, they don't get it. They're making mistakes. They keep trying to prop up people who should fail. Bernie, sometimes you can spend more money trying to prevent a recession than if you just went ahead and had the recession, cleaned out the system, and started over. And America's making the same mistake that the Japanese made in the 1990s. And you know the story of the lost decade in Japan. Well, Japan is still 80% below where it was 19 years ago. That is not a typo, Bernie. The Japanese stock market is over 80% below where it was 19 years ago because they made the same mistakes.
And the funny thing is, yeah, I remember that. I remember when the Nikkei was looking to break the 40,000 level, and some people were dollar cost averaging in, and they dollar cost averaged all the way down to 7,000, 8,000 where it is right now. But they did clean up their banks, though. I mean, they had a problem that they had an American financial system on their hands when the rest of the world was gorging on building capacity, building bigger cars, completely getting into bed with technology, and yet nothing to pay for it, if you know what I mean. How come? Is it because the rest of the world caught up with them, or what?
Well, they had an American banking problem. You're exactly right, but they didn't but they eventually let their banks fail. But it was very, very, very late in the game. And Bernie, they just continue to print money and spend money on bridges to nowhere. Now the Japanese have the largest internal, maybe not the largest internal debt in the world, but among the largest internal debt of any nation in the world. Japan has got problems. I mean, I own the yen, and I'm sorry to say this. Maybe I shouldn't own the yen. But the Japanese set the standard for all of us, and America's now doing exactly what they did, and it's not working. You would think that by now somebody in America would catch on that it's not working. For 2 years, they've been doing the same thing with the same people. This guy Geithner has been around for 2 years. He's the one who made all the problems, and they're trying to do the same things, and it's not working, and it's not going to work, Bernie.
If it's not going to work, then what are you doing? Some people are saying, hey, Citi went down from 55 to